Okay, so I had my UFC 279 preview all recorded, ready to upload. Everything was set, thumbnail, everything was done, but our boy Kamzat decided to cock the whole thing up by missing weight. So now we have a completely new card and a completely new preview. So obviously the initial fights was Kamzat versus Nate in the main event, and Tony versus Li Jiang in the co-main with Kevin Holland and Daniel Rodriguez before that. But now it has completely been reshuffled, and I'm not mad at it. I'm actually more excited, to be completely honest with you, because to me, in my prediction videos for both of the co-main and main, I thought Kamzat would wipe the floor with Nate, and I thought Lee would wipe the floor with Tony. But now I think it makes everything a lot more interesting. So obviously what's happening is now Nate Diaz and Tony Ferguson in the main event with Kamzat Chimaev and Kevin Holland in the co-main. And considering the beef those two have, I do kind of like that fight. I think I obviously have views on both of those fights, but I do like, in terms of the Kamzat and Kevin Holland fight, I like it because of the animosity between the two. And for the Nate and Tony fight, I love it because it's a fight I've wanted for ages. Stylistically, it's such an interesting fight. Two very similar fighters in that way. So I love that. And with the Li Jiang and Rodriguez fight, I feel bad for Lee because he was missed out on the big name and he went all out, got his suit. Seemed like he was really excited for it. But he's still getting a big fight with Daniel Rodriguez. And as well, that is a great fight, but I feel like the two fights, the main and co-main, are the ones I want to look forward to. In terms of the Li Jiang and Daniel Rodriguez fight, it's a banger, but I think Lee, in the same way, will beat Daniel Rodriguez. I don't think it will be... it's that catchphrase as well, which I never realised, but he's good, Rodriguez. D-Rod, he's a decent fighter, but I feel like Lee's got the power, and he's a very big welterweight. That knockout power, I think, is vital. When you're at a certain point in the UFC, when you're not fighting these big names, you're just coming up. I know Lee's been around for a while, but I'm just saying, again, I think I said in my preview for the initial video that Lee had, or has, I think he's tied for the most knockdowns or knockouts in UFC welterweight history, something like that. I might be wrong, but I remember seeing that somewhere. But yeah, so going on to the two main fights. So starting off with Kamzat Chimaev versus Kevin Holland, a fight that should have been, alright, well, Kamzat should have been the main event, but he obviously missed weight. Now, obviously, the welterweight limit, I think that you can go a pound to over at is obviously 170. But I think Kamzat missed it by a absolutely ridiculous 8.5 pounds. Which I don't know what he was doing like the day before. Apparently he was eating a lot, drinking sparkling water and stuff. I don't know, I remember when Khabib had that thing with Tony Ferguson where he didn't make weight because and a lot of people saw the embedded footage of him eating tiramisu. It's weird, but it is what it is, and we are now here. I'm happy he's now been dropped down the card. He's not on the main event. I still want to see him fight because I still like him as a fighter, but it's a bit of a joke, to be honest. And I think he got, looking at the weigh-ins, he got a lot of boos, and yeah, it was 178, obviously 0.5, which is the weight, which is shocking. How the hell you go that far? I mean, going overweight is one thing. That is a big, and that is... It's just very unprofessional, Chimaev, and he's obviously lost a lot of support because of it, because look, fighters sometimes don't make weight. It isn't easy, but you signed up, you put your name on the dotted line, go in there, and you have to be professional and make weight. Every fighter at a certain level did it. Khabib had issues initially, but then it feels like once he got the belt, he was professional. He was made the weight most of the time. The only time he looked a bit ropey was the Justin Gaethje one. Other than that, he made it flawlessly other times. And obviously Charles Oliveira had the issues with his weight, but to me, most time, you should be penalised heavily when you don't make weight. They have that thing where you have to give a certain percentage of your purse to the opponent, but I still don't like it. It should be more. And I think Adesanya said it should be about 80% or something like that, over 50 of your purse if you don't make weight, because it's such a big no in combat sport in general. So yeah, I'm hoping that he gets very... I like Chimaev as a fighter, but He needs to get penalised for this. It's stupid how far he was overweight, especially when you're the main event of a UFC pay-per-view. And this is what you do the first time. It's absolute joke, but this is what happens. Now you get bumped down the card, and now I'd imagine he'll get a lot of boos, not a lot of support like he would have if he was just made weight and came in on the fight night. But against Kevin Holland, I like Kevin Holland. He's a good fighter, a very exciting fight to watch if you don't have a wrestler against him, which kind of isn't boding well. But I do wonder with Chimaev. Chimaev should win this fight. Let's not get twisted. Kevin Holland's a very good striker, but he's not. He's a little bit like Diaz in a way if you look at how he fights, but not. The boxing isn't as good as Diaz, but he is very crisp boxing. He's very, like I said, he talks to his opponent a lot. He, in the Jacare fight, showed decent jiu-jitsu, but then he kind of, or not decent jiu-jitsu in terms of submitting him, but he showed some decent fundamentals from bottom. But, you know, he fought Brunson, he got dominated, did the same with Vittori's, one of them. But if you can keep it standing for long enough, if Khamzat maybe gets emotional, I think that's the only way Kevin Holland wins this, because I can just see Chimaev taking him down, doing what he did to Li Jiang. To be honest, you know, Khamzat has seriously, he's very, very emotional, very pent up, and he's a fantastic wrestler, but to me, he does get over emotional, does sort of, you see him compared to Islam Makhachev or Khabib, those type of guys, he isn't as reserved as them. They can keep their emotions intact. Feels like Khamzat can't, and if he does sort of let that all out, Holland could knock him out very comfortably. It's not that much of a shock to see that happen, to be honest. And if he does, I say this all the time, that I'm never 100% either way in a fight, but you know, if Khamzat does just try and strike with him, he's gonna get knocked out, and because he could strike with Gilbert Burns, you can't strike with some of these guys. You know, we saw that with Usman and Edwards. Even though Usman was winning that fight, he made one mistake against the guy who's a superior striker, and the way he set him up, a superior striker wouldn't have fell for that, but Usman did, because that isn't his game completely. He's a wrestler, so is it. But in terms of my prediction, I think Chimaev is the more superior fighter, I would say. He's obviously the better wrestler out of the two. So I would say, I think, will he say? No, I'm going to say a decision for Khamzat. I don't think he'll stop him, to be honest. I think Holland's tough. I don't think he'd want to get submitted by Khamzat. So I'm going to say that it will be a Khamzat Chimaev decision win. I think because Kevin Holland's very tough and very durable. That's one thing he is. He isn't someone who quits in there. He's very game, and I think that's what will help him in this fight. But unless Khamzat gets emotional, and it could happen. Kevin Holland's been talking a lot of crap to him, and those who don't really like each other, and they, like we all heard, and then Mr. talk about this at the start, there was a whole scrap backstage apparently involving those two. So very Conor and Khabib like, but I'd be interested to see what happens in that scenario. And especially with Khamzat, he talks a lot about making money, Chimaev, which is surprising considering where he's from. I know there's not a lot. There's people from those sort of backgrounds don't have much, but it feels like he views that very importantly. And he won't be making as much, not in the main event. He'll obviously be penalised for not making weight. And he's not fighting Nate Diaz. Naturally, you're not making as much money fighting Kevin Holland, so this is what it is. And yeah, it's a crazy scenario, but yeah, I think Chimaev gets it done, though. I don't think he'll have, unless he gets emotional. If he gets emotional, he's getting knocked out. But I think he'll just use his wrestling out, grappling around to ground and pound. I don't think it'll be a complete one-sided. I think on the feet, you may see his chin tested a couple of times, and I think that's where you'll see what he's about. But yeah, for the most part, I do think Khamzat will just out-grappling. A little bit like Gilbert Burns and Wonderboy, I'd say, that sort of style of fight. Maybe keep him down for a bit longer, but yeah, that's what I'd say happens. So yeah, I think Chimaev gets it done in the co-main, and then going all the way up into the main event, we have Tony Ferguson and Nate Diaz, a fight I've wanted for quite a while because these two aren't similar, but stylistically it's such an interesting fight. Both cardio freaks, both very good on the ground, and both very good strikers. I think Nate's boxing's a bit better, but Tony's a bit more creative on the feet. Such an interesting fight. For Nate, it's his last fight in his contract, and for Tony, he's come off some few rough fights, and I'm happy he's getting a real big fight like a Nate Diaz because he deserves at least one of them, I think. And being in the main event, I'm happy for him in that sense because I think it's a real interesting fight, this one. Like I said, they're both so similar, and I think for Nate, I'm happy he's getting this fight instead of the Chimaev fight because Chimaev, I think, would have dominated him and possibly finished him, whereas I think Tony is a more competitive fight, and I feel, personally, you could maybe even say Nate's a favourite in this one, simply because Tony's on a free... Is it a free fight skid? No, it's a 4-fight skid because he lost to, knocked out by Chandler, beat by Dariush, beat by Oliveira, beat by Gaethje. So there's a lot to come off for him, whereas Nate obviously lost to Masvidal, but before that beat Pettis. Lost to Edwards, lost to Masvidal, but then before that beat Pettis. Then obviously lost to McGregor, beat McGregor. So he's up and down, obviously, we know Nate. But I'm interested to see how this one goes. I think the key for Nate in this one would be to, I think, almost just forcing Tony back is what I'd say. Now, Nate fights with that pressure anyway, but to me, is very creative in there. And I do think on the ground, Tony's very good. Jiu-Jitsu wise, would be such an interesting fight, battle on the ground. But I think I'd actually favour Nate because Nate's just got that bit more experience in there. And I think, and the one thing I would say about Nate, obviously got the scar tissue, but Tony got knocked out cold in his last fight. And bearing in mind, at welterweight, he's kind of a bit more power, Nate. Not a lot. He's not a heavy hitter. He's a volume puncher, but just makes you think how will that ultimately play into Tony's chin, because as we know, when you get knocked out cold, that chin's never the same. And both these guys have solid chins, but when Nate hasn't been finished for a long time. For Tony, last fight, he got head kick or front kick to the face, knocked out cold. So that makes, and it wasn't that long ago, it was in May. So I am interested to see how that one pans out in terms of how whose chin holds up more. Yeah, just a real great fight, and I'm happy it's a 5 round. I think this could be a war, but I think it will be one of those where I think Tony will start off strong. First 2, he may look very good, but I think as the fight wears on and Nate kind of gets his range, I think that's when the boxing comes into it, and that's where I feel the fight will pick up, and that's where you'll see the battle of wills between the two warriors and 2 absolute legends of the game. So, like I said, I actually prefer this fight to the Chimaev fight, so I'm happy for this. But in terms of, and what I'm happy about as well, before I get to my prediction, I love the fact that they also have both scheduled fights. It's not like one's coming in on a day's, week's notice. Like, apparently Dustin Poirier was called up, but they didn't pursue that because they wanted Nate versus Tony, which is an unbelievable fight. And yeah, so I'm going to say, for my prediction of this fight, it's a war. It's a 50-50 fight, but I'm edging towards Nate Diaz in this one. I think Nate will get this done via decision. I think he will just press forward. They're both fan favourites, but I think the fans will be a bit more on his side. He's a fan favourite anyway, Nate. And I think the more and more the fight goes, the more it goes towards him. And I feel like he won't knock Tony out, but I do think he will put a lot of pressure on him. I think Tony will put a lot of pressure on it. It will be I think they will be cut up in the fight. I think it will be a blood and guts fight. One way I could see Tony winning, especially with those elbows that he uses, is possibly we could see a doctor stoppage, as we've seen with the Masvidal fight with Nate, because obviously he has a lot of scar tissue on his face. So that's obviously going to a factor. He gets cut every single fight in it because of it. And with Tony's elbows, that could be something to watch out for. But yeah, I do think though, Nate, if we avoid that, I think Nate will get it done via decision. I think there's that pressure he'll have with boxing, I think will ultimately pay dividends, and I think he will get the decision win. But yeah, a good card though. This one a lot better than what it was initially, because literally there were only 2 fights I already cared about. Now there's a lot. The 3 fights are very interesting on this one. I mean, Kevin Holland and D-Rod was a good fight anyway, but I think this Holland and Chimaev, because the beef, and Tony versus Nick because of styles, is such a fun matchups. And yeah, looking forward to this one. I wasn't before, but I am very interested to see how this one goes now. But yeah, just my quick preview for UFC 279, and I will do a review afterwards. And yeah, until next time.